everybody, welcome back. It is the Chattering Magpie with you once again, talking about Season 3, Episode 3 of Ascendance of a Bookworm. Last week, it was all about Myne and how she was adjusting to her new life and her new routine living in the temple for the winter. We also learned that Myne's adoption to a noble is non-negotiable, and Ferdinand gives Myne up until the age of 10 to continue to be with her family. In this episode, we get to see what happens while she's at the temple during the winter and what the winter dedication ritual is all about. I liked how the episode opened up with DAMUEL arriving to the temple to work. He's commuting from the Nobles district, so we get a bird's eye view of how it looks like in the winter. Next, we get several scenes of Myne introducing DAMUEL to her attendants, to Lutz, Tuli, basically everybody that deals with her in the temple. It was funny in a disturbing sense to see DELIA scoping out a potential future benefactor by asking, "Hey, are you a high-ranking noble?" And I was like, yeah, that's in character with DELIA, but I don't like it. If I had been in Myne's place, I would have been a little worried about how DAMUEL is going to treat my friends, my family, the people that work for me. But it's good to see that DAMUEL is actually going to fit in very well with the rest of her retainers. He's not stuck up like the evil one. In fact, he's actually really nice. Being a low-ranking noble, the bright-eyed shining admiration he got from Tuli and from Lutz when they meet him for the first time is something he has never experienced before. In the light novel, he actually went so far as to say, "Apprentice, how am I supposed to react to this?" DAMUEL, we just love him. In this scene where DAMUEL steps in and offers a suggestion so that Myne can still read her books during the cold months of winter, you can see that DAMUEL and Fran are going to get along, and that's actually really nice because yes, Fran is her head retainer, and yes, he is trying to train her to become a noble, so he is able to say things like, "Myne, you can't do this," or "Myne, you need to do this." But still, he is just a grey-robed attendant, and DAMUEL outranks him in every way. Yet DAMUEL showed a degree of respect here in that he even went so far as to apologize for perhaps speaking out of turn, and Fran seemed to appreciate that, and I appreciate that too. There's a reason why there's so many bookworms who just love DAMUEL, and who basically think that he can do no wrong. I don't like to say that he's a nice guy because some people consider that phrase a negative one. So instead, I'll just say this: he's a great character. Great characters start off probably not from the best place, they made mistakes, and he definitely made a mistake, as Ferdinand pointed out later on. But he doesn't just stay there, he does become a really great character. That is why in the next scene, I was infuriated at DELIA, who is informing the High Bishop on all that is new with regards to Myne. I'm not sure why, but these DELIA scenes are getting to me. I don't know why, but the anime is hardening my heart against her. As a light novel reader, I had a degree of sympathy for her because of her circumstances, but in this season, she's actually really pissing me off. Probably it's because she's looking down on DAMUEL, and I do not appreciate that. So the fact that she went and gave her report to Jenny and she didn't get her reward from the High Bishop actually makes me really glad. So in this episode, I wanted to smack people left and right, it seems, because not soon after DELIA did her informing, I wanted to smack that green-haired snake Arno. Anime onlys, I'm not going to tell you what his motivations are or what's the deal with him, but just notice, he's walking way too fast for Myne, and 2, once the High Bishop leaves, everybody's looking worried, but look at that stupid smug expression. Gosh, I hate him. Next was the dedication ritual, which I thought had plenty of beautiful little details that I appreciated. I had never even thought that there would be so many chalices to fill. That's a whole lot of chalices. Second of all, there was this other detail in that the chalices are actually filled with a red liquid, and I hadn't even thought of that when I read the light novel. I thought that the little gemstones on the cup, they just lit up and that was it. So that was really nice to see. The whole interaction with the High Bishop entering the room while they're doing their dedication was actually really good. During this episode, I was making little notes here and there, but for like the entirety of this scene, I just watched spellbound. I was like, ooh, what's going on? Like, I really liked how they depicted this tension between Myne, who knows that he's a no-good kind of guy, Ferdinand, who knows that this guy's full of BS, and this evil Santa, who is obviously doing something shady with those cups in a bag. Yet neither Myne or Ferdinand are in a position where they can say anything about it. They just have to comply with orders. Anime onlys, this is some information that was left out from the light novel. There is such a shortage of mana, not only in Ehrenfest, but in other neighboring duchies as well, and mana replenishment like this actually plays a part in the politics of this world. So there's some duchies who really don't even have enough mana to fill their own chalices during winter dedication, so they will send their chalices off to another duchy who has more mana, and in return, that other duchy will be able to say like, okay, so I filled up your chalices, your people can have a good harvest, but now you owe me a favor. That's why the fact that evil Santa brought extra chalices is really questionable, and that is why Ferdinand has to ask the Lord or the Archduke about these. Yet he also has to have Myne continue to fill those regardless. After that, they just breezed right through all of the winter happenings, and I have to say, I am extremely disappointed that they did not include the part where DAMUEL tries the Peru cake and falls in love with it. All of the fandom agrees on one thing. Despite all our many conflicting ships, we know that the ultimate and one true pairing here is DAMUEL Peru cake. I'm actually really sad that we didn't get to see the beginning of this beautiful relationship take place. But again, based on the amount of stuff they're trying to jam into one episode, I am not surprised at all. But for me, the biggest complaint that I have is that we actually lost a lot of interactions that happened during the winter with Myne and Ferdinand that just shows how their bond is growing steadily stronger. Through spending time together, playing reversey games, of course, Ferdinand always defeats her. And also, most importantly, through those hug sessions that Myne just absolutely needs to have, because living so long in the temple with only attendants around her, Myne really does go in a decline. So Ferdinand has to be the one to give her the human contact that she needs. Next is the scene where Myne receives the letter types from Johann. We know how important these letter types are to her, and we also know that when she gets super excited, she just passes out. One person who does not know this about Myne was DAMUEL, so when he saw her pass out like that, he was like, I am sure that after this I am going to be executed, and that made me laugh so hard. And meanwhile, Myne is still passed out, but she's smiling blissfully. Next is the conversation that Ferdinand has with Myne and her parents regarding her future. I don't have as many thoughts as feelings about this scene. I know what's coming and I know it's gonna happen, but somehow this anime always does this to me. It just manages to reach into my heart and just pull at it, and just the waterworks start. So when I saw Myne starting to cry, and when I heard her little voice say, I don't want to turn 10, and then, oh my gosh, my heart just broke for her. And then when they cut to Ferdinand, you can see that he's just calm, stoic, blank-faced. He's putting on his noble mask. But we know better. He is not a cold-hearted man. He actually does feel regret that he has to separate Myne from her family. I will say, however, when Aoife said, please continue to take care of Myne, I couldn't help but think that sounded a lot like a parent giving away their child or their daughter as a bride. Obviously, she doesn't mean it that way, but that's just how it sounded, the way it was worded. We get another little scene with DAMUEL. Again, DAMUEL is the man of this episode, and this is when he's having lunch with Ferdinand. Now, this is actually a side story, so it's not even part of the chapters that go in between. So this is a fun little extra. I like how in this scene, we not only get a smiling or at least a pleasant looking Ferdinand, that was a real treat, but we also learn about some of the repercussions that DAMUEL has to live with because of what happened with the Trombe incident. First off, of course, we know, was having to pay a large amount of money for his share in replacing Myne's robes. In the anime last episode, they didn't go into detail about this at all, but the robes were so exorbitantly expensive that his family actually went into debt just to pay for the share that DAMUEL had to pay. And FYI, he only had to pay a quarter of the cost, Karsa the other quarter, and Shikikoza's family had to pay half of the total cost, so Kurina made a killing here. Next, he got demoted, which we of course knew before. And then finally, his engagement basically just fell through as a result of his disgrace. And that's pretty sad for him, but at least he's not dead. And finally, we got a very brief introduction to this blue robe guy. We're not supposed to know his name yet, we don't get introduced to him. All we know is that he just comes in, gets up into Myne's face and says, "Hey, you look puny, are you sure you're over 7? Oh, and by the way, can you make this little sound pui?" Thank you, Crunchyroll translator. We were not going to take oink sitting down. When the trailer came out on Crunchyroll, they translated it as, "Hey, oink for me," and that was not gonna cut it. So I don't know if they heard our cries in the comments or if they actually read the letters that some of the bookworms sent over to them, asking them and petitioning them to please change the oink to pui, but they listened, and for that we're so thankful. It's not pui, it's not puhi, but I will take pui. I will take it. Next week, we're going to see all about this guy. We learn who he is or what his deal is. And, you know, we haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to his antics. So look forward to that. We have thankfully gotten through the heaviest elements of this book. So we can just expect fun times, thrilling times, all kinds of good things now that we're going into the spring prayer. And yeah, I'm so looking forward to that. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comments, your impressions, whether you're a light novel reader or an anime-only bookworm. I look forward to reading those. Light novel and web novel readers, please tag your spoilers, hide them for the sake of anime-only bookworms who are hopefully enjoying this show as much as I am. And let's also try to keep our comments positive. I know there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to see and a lot of things that I wish they would have added, but on the whole, I thought that this episode was really fun. The pace was great. The content that they covered was excellent. I think the quality this week was better than last week's. It was almost on par with the first episode. But then again, when it comes to Bookworm, I would watch this anime even if it had half as much of a budget. I would still watch it, I would still love it. There's absolutely nothing that this show could do wrong except stop after season 3, honestly. But that's another topic for another video, so I'll leave you guys here and we'll catch up next week. Until then, bye bye.